Welcome to the Behind the Glass podcast. It's been a while. We're not consistent, kind of like the Broncos offense. Hey, yo, back at it. Ha-ha. Glad I get to fire these shots off. I have to hold them inside me while I'm doing board op stuff. Stephen Priest here with you, along with Brandon Stowell, here to talk anything and everything around the world of sports, and really just to get our voices out because, you know, we're pent up having to listen to these hosts talk about everything. We want to give our opinions too, but we can't. But now we can. Now we got the platform. Like I said, Stephen Priest, Brandon Stowell here with you. Brandon, how you doing? Nuggets win last night. You worked that game.
Yep. They look. I think everyone. I could probably say this for everyone. I think we're all just shocked.
Yeah.
8-1. The schedule hasn't been super difficult, but a win versus Golden State. You beat Utah. They were on the second of a back-to-back. Blah blah blah. You beat the Pelicans. I believe they were on the second of a back-to-back, and no Anthony Davis.
Right.
So you got to kind of, 8-1, but there's obviously some games where they might have lost if that team wasn't on the second back-to-back or if they were healthy or whatever. But 8-1 is 8-1, and a lot of these games that they've won, they would not have won last year. I mean, it's that simple. Like it's a different mindset with this team. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it just feels different. And, you know, you can point to the schedule, and that's fine, too. But, I mean, those two wins over Golden State and Utah are really big, in my opinion, especially early. And I think the way they're winning games is what I think is most important in this scenario. You know, they're still starting to have the issues with the turnovers like they did last season, but you're starting to see them come out of that and fight through that adversity late in games, especially, which is really impressive. You know, last night being down like 9 at some point or 11 going into the fourth quarter, if I'm correct on that. They were down, and then they come out, battle back, and obviously Donovan Mitchell gets hurt. But for those who are like, oh, the Nuggets, you know, they played Utah on a back-to-back. Well, the Nuggets were playing 3 and 4 days. So, I mean, say what you want there. Yes, they had a day to rest, but that's still a tough thing to do, to play that 3 and 4 days. And then they got Boston coming in, Monday or tomorrow? Yeah, Monday, right?
Yep,
tomorrow. So, I mean, it's a huge test for this team, but it just feels different. And I think anybody that denies that is just fooling themselves at this point.
Yeah. I mean, you can see, and they're finally starting to get national attention. I don't know if you saw Woj's tweet last night, but he said, no IT, no Will Barton, Michael Porter Jr. I mean, you can say, whatever, what you want about him, but this seems 8-1 without at least IT and Barton. And I mean, Denver's a problem in the West, and as good as other people said, which I'm not surprised, but I have a very big hate for Utah, so
yes,
I'm happy about their struggles. But no, it's just really surprising, and I mean, I don't know if you've been watching TNT, but even Chuck on there saying Denver's the second best team in the West, and at that time when he said it, kind of sounded crazy, but now when you're looking at it, it's, hey, you know what, he might be right. They are the second best team in the West right now.
4-game win streak, and I believe the direct quote from Chuck was, "Don't sleep on my Nuggets." And you shouldn't, because right now they are first comfortably in the division, Portland at 6-3. The bottom 3 teams, though, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Utah, all really struggling to get out of the gate early in this season. Obviously, Oklahoma City dealing with Russell Westbrook, an injury to start the season, and Minnesota, I don't know how in the world they are just continuing to just play Jimmy Butler and continuing to keep him on the team. At this point, just trade the guy. He doesn't want to be there. Like, when he's saying, oh, my body hurts, I don't want to play, just get him out of there. He's basically pulling an Earl Thomas, what Earl Thomas did earlier in the year for Seattle. I don't want to practice because I have a headache. Just get the guy out of there because he's a distraction at this point.
Well, yeah, and they should have took the 4 first-round picks from Houston.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Because that's not just the next 4 years. That's over a course of 8 years. That's every other year because of the that rule where you can't trade your first-round draft pick in back-to-back years.
Goodness.
So in 8 years, you really think Houston's going to be like some great team? Probably. I mean, there's a good chance that they won't. There's a good chance that those picks could be top 5 picks.
Yeah, I mean, look at them now.
No James Harden in 8 years. no Chris Paul. Like, what's going to happen to Houston? So they should have taken that deal.
Yeah, I don't know what they're holding out for, and I think it's just the owner at this point, and really Tom Thibodeau, because I mean, obviously he just has some sort of infatuation with bringing back the 2011 Bulls. It's just ridiculous to me, but that's what he wants to do, and that's what they're flying with. But they're 4-5 as well. Same with Utah with that most recent loss, and Oklahoma City at 4-4. But I mean, for the Nuggets, it's just great to see them play not only hard and with true effort, but to play great defense. I mean, they're a top 3 team in the league in defense.
Efficiency, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just nuts to see them actually give effort out there. And even Nikola's sliding his feet. I'm like, I've never seen this. My star, Nikola, looks amazing out there playing defense, and it's great to see them do that. And I know Michael Malone, he's just through the roof as he's just a defensive-minded coach. So to see this and to see what his team is capable of and the potential that they had doing this, I mean, I feel so happy for him.
Yeah, and this is why you stay and you trust the head coach that you signed originally. This is why he got, that extension. You've got to give him a chance to not only put in the blueprints for this team and say, hey, defense is going to be eventually what this team is built upon. And because we already knew that this team offensively was going to be great no matter what, or at least good. And so for Malone, the past 2 years when he came in, it was all about defense. And you're finally starting to see all of that kind of come together. And it's hard to, when you got 9 guys under the age of 23, 2 years ago you had, I mean, your main, your starting 5 was pretty much all under the age of 25 2 years ago. I mean, that's something where when you're trying to implement defense, that's never going to happen. You have to give it time. You have to give it 2-3 years. And then those guys will start to kind of figure it out defensively. And that's what's happening. You're finally starting to see it. Now, can they sustain it? I wouldn't say that yet. I would say that mark, get to Christmas. If they're still top 5, top 10, then okay, they can sustain it. But right now, they're playing great. They're offensively, they're a little bit of a mess, especially with the starters. They're a little bit inconsistent, but hey, they're finding ways to win, and that's extremely different from last season.
Yeah, 3rd in points allowed right now at just under 102. You're 4th in rebounds per game at just under 50. You mentioned the offense. I think that's one part I don't think anybody foresaw coming, especially the three-point shooting. This team is really struggling from behind the three-point arc. Thankfully, guys like Wancho and Malik Beasley have been coming in and really saving the day for them. But they're 16th in points per game, 111, and 9th with 25 assists per game. So offensively, they're getting by, but their defense is really carrying them early on in this season. But you have to think at some point that it will balance out. I don't know if they'll be a top 5 team defensively, like you said, throughout the entire year, but I think you can easily see them mingle between that, 8 to 12 spot if they just continue to just play with effort. Simply that. Like, if you just play with effort, and that's why I tweeted out the other night, that's why Golden State is so great. Mainly, yes, do they have stars? Of course talent. They do. They have great talent, the best talent on one team in the league, obviously. But for them, it's just simply effort. Like, they give so much effort and movement, not only on defense, but on offense. That's what truly makes them great. They just outwork people. And if Denver can just have that mindset to just outwork you, then I think they'll be fine defensively going forward. Offensively, I feel Jamal Murray, and we all know Paul Millsap kind of struggled out the gate too offensively. He's starting to look better in these past few games. Jamal Murray, though, to me, he just looks like I don't know if it's lacking confidence, but right now he doesn't have that stroke. How do you feel about Jamal Murray's performance right now?
It's a thing early in the season. Go back and look at his rookie year. I think he started 0 for 27, I want to say, from the field, or something ridiculous like that. Last year started off slow again. I don't know what it is about Jamal, but early on in the season, he just doesn't shoot the ball well. But you know what? I mean, he's getting good looks. He's And when he's not shooting the ball well, he's attacking the rim. He's finding other ways to play really well. And honestly, defensively, Jamal has been fantastic. He's had 2 games where he's had 5 steals. I don't know what he's averaging steals wise. I think he's he's averaging just over a steal per game, but he's had a couple of games where he's getting 3, 4, 5 steals. So he's doing everything else really well. The shooting will come though, and it's just I think it's going to be something throughout his career. Honestly, I don't know what his mindset is coming into the season. I don't know if he's overthinking it coming into the season, if it's confidence. I don't know, but it seems like he doesn't really get that rhythm until December, January. So you're just going to have Gary, Nikola, Monte Morris, Hernan Gomez. You're just going to need them to shoot the ball well until Jamal can, because it's a thing. I don't know what it is, but it's his 3rd year, and all 3 years he started off slow. But you know what? This year he has started better than the last 2 years. So, and it's not just the shooting, it's everything else. It's assists, the rebounds, the steals, the effort defensively. It's just all of those things. So it's not like he's playing bad. It's just for whatever reason that his shooting just does not like to show up early on the seasons. I don't know.
It's kind of like that CJ Anderson effect. When CJ was here, he would just have a slow, just awful start every year running the football, and then somehow late in the season, he would look better, rush for 1,000 yards, and that type of stuff. You mentioned Gary Harris. Talk about this guy. He is a freaking stud out there. Every year he's been in the league, his point total continues to jump. He started off with 3.4 in 14-15, jumps to 12.3, 14.9, 17.5 last year. Now he's at just under 19 points a game, just under 4 rebounds a game, and 3 assists. Gary Harris probably has to be easily one of the most underrated players in the NBA, and if his hat isn't thrown into the conversation of most improved player, then they're just doing him an injustice at this point.
From the most improved player thing, I heard about. I kind of saw some people talking about that on Twitter. I don't know if you can say most improved, just because we saw this last year. I think from a national perspective, yeah, you could probably say most improved, because no one was really paying attention to him last year. But you just said it. He averaged 17.5 points per game last year. I believe he was the leading scorer on this team a year ago. Or it might have been, I believe it was him. So most improved, I don't know. But you know what? Every year he's improving offensively in any way. His first year, everyone's like, well, he needs an offensive game. Second year, everyone's, well, he needs to be able to score off the dribble. He's cutting and he gets passes from Jokic, and a lot of his buckets are, from layups and dunks. And then all of a sudden he started shooting 3 well. And all of a sudden now he's being able to create his own shot. And he's just becoming a complete player right now. And that's something where that's what you want to see from a guy like that, coming in as a defensive minded guy. And all of a sudden, it's like Jimmy Butler. It's like Kawhi Leonard. He's that type of player. And he's now just becoming a special type of player. And I don't think a lot of people will agree with me on this, but he's not the most talented player on this team, but he is the most valuable player on this team. Just what he does on both ends, his leadership, when the Nuggets need a bucket, he's going to go and get it. He's becoming that guy. And then, like I said, defensively, he's the best defensive player on this team. Right there with Paul Millsap. So he's their anchor. And you want to say what you want about Jokic, and Jokic is becoming a star in this league, and he should make the All-Star team this year. But I'm telling you, Gary's the most important player. If Gary didn't get hurt at the end of last season and miss those last 7 or 8 games, the Nuggets would have made the playoffs. I guarantee you. There's just something about him, his leadership, his ability on both ends, his ability to be able to create shots and take smart shots. He's a special player, and I can't believe the Nuggets were able to have him on the contract that he has right now, because he's worth double that right now.
Gary, I think, is easily probably the glue player of this team, and I can agree with you there. I think when I was saying most improved player, I think what really sticks out to me, and it won't, if you look at his numbers, it won't stand out numerically, or at least statistically right now. He's not averaging like 25, 26, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. He's not doing that. But I think you said the key words. When you need a bucket, he gets a bucket. When you need a steal, he gets a steal. What game was it? I think it was 2 nights ago that he came up with 3 steals, not consecutively, but 3 steals in one quarter that really helped seal the game for the Nuggets. I just think this guy, I can agree with you there that he's so important. I think maybe most talented, no, but I think when you talk about a guy that's arguably the most valuable on the team, Gary Harris has to be up there. I think Nikola, with just what he can do, is maybe the most talented. Passing, shooting, posting up. Defensively, he's getting better. I think he's an underrated rebounder. I mean, you see him just snagging rebounds. When he puts his mind to it, he can dominate on the boards. And then, you look at Jamal Murray, but he has these slow starts to the season that you mentioned. I don't know where we can put him in there, but I think Gary and Jokic are easily the 2 guys that you look at this team that should carry this team, and hopefully they'll do so for years to come. Let's talk about another team, though, that I don't even know where to start. I mean, I do know where to start, but it would cause much upheaval in Broncos country. The Denver Broncos. Obviously, we haven't done this podcast in a while, and I think the last time we did this podcast, the Broncos still sucked. Same issues. They're at least statistically better in certain areas, but talk about where you are with the Denver Broncos through, what are we, week 8, week 9 at this point?
Yeah, I think the last time we did one of these was actually before the NFL draft.
Right.
And my point was to draft Rosen, who, again, you look at all these rookies, they've all had their good games, they've all had their bad games. They look like rookies, and that's how they're going to look. So anyone rooting for them to fail, anyone saying, see, they're not playing great or blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, they're rookies. Did you watch Jared Goff his first year, or Carson Wentz? They're rookies. That's what they do. The big thing is the second year and the improvement their second year. Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate in his second year. Jared Goff was up there in his second year, and that was last year. Look at this year and the second year quarterbacks this year, and they're all playing great. So my thing was draft a quarterback. You're gonna you signed Case Keenum to a 2-year deal for a reason. You didn't sign him to a 4-year deal or a 5-year deal. So you obviously didn't think he was going to be your guy for the next 5 years. Maybe you were hoping that, but he wasn't going to most likely be that guy. So why didn't you draft Rosen or trade up to get Sam Darnold or whoever? So that was the first mistake. And at this point, you're seeing pretty much all of that. The reason why they drafted Chubb was why? Because they thought they had Case Keenum. They were a quarterback away from being a contender. So then they just picked the best player available, which was Chubb. And so, I mean, Chubb has played all right, and he has, 6.5 sacks or whatever. And you can look at the sacks and be like, see, he's putting up numbers, but watch those sacks. Von Miller usually is pushing the quarterback to Chubb. So credit Von as much as Chubb on those sacks. So that was the first mistake, and it's kind of snowballed from there. Obviously with the Chad Kelly stuff, and you don't really have a young quarterback that you can throw in there to kind of just see what he can do at this point. So you're kind of stuck with Case Keenum. The team isn't as good as you thought they were, which is not really surprising to me. It's funny. If I were to go back and listen to that podcast back in whenever we did it before that draft, I think I pretty much called exactly what Denver is. And they're just an average team. You traded Aqib Talib. The defense is kind of a shell of itself from even a year ago. It's a mess. And they just, I don't know. I don't know what it is with Elway. I don't know why. I don't know why he thought they were one quarterback away from being a contender. I don't understand.
I think with him, it's a pride thing. You never want to. He's so used to winning. Obviously, you win 2 Super Bowls as a quarterback. He's been to plenty as a player, and then you help go to 2 Super Bowls, win 1 as a GM. I think for him and really all of Broncos country, the thought of having to not necessarily quit on a season, but realize, okay, we're not going to be in contention this season. And really have that made known, I think is tough for them to accept, which has also been a detriment to this team. But I mean, you have to call it what they are at this point. They're a 3-5 football team. They're a bad football team. Now that doesn't mean that they don't have talent. They're probably the most talented 3-5 football team out there. You see flashes in every single game. It's the same story every single game. It's hilarious to me. They're so talented. And they play in stretches. The offense will look good. Case will look, decent to solid, the best that he can look. And then the defense can't stop anybody. And then the defense can stop guys, but then Case Keenum throws an interception. Or he backpedals 10 yards in the pocket and gets sacked and the drive's done. Or Garrett Bowles does what he's not supposed to do and tackles somebody and gets a holding called on. It's always something with this team. They're a bad football team at this point. There's no way you can get around that. A lot of people want to, say, well, they have potential. I'm not ready to give up on them yet. I think if they don't start losing from here on out to try and get a top 10 pick, that'll be the biggest mistake. Well, I won't say the biggest mistake, but a huge mistake for them. Because at this point, can this team, even if they turn it around and at their best, can they beat New England? No. Can they beat Kansas City? Maybe, because they've almost done it twice. I mean, they're in close games. They lost by 3 and then 7, I believe, if I'm correct on that. Could they beat a Pittsburgh? Maybe not. And then you look at the NFC. Could they beat a full, ready to go Rams team? No. Could they beat the Saints? No. Could they, beat the Packers even? Probably not. So at this point, I don't want to throw out the tank word, but you got to tank. I mean, that's what it is. You're not going to go anywhere at this point. I don't know why that's such a taboo thing for people to understand and why that's so just like, blasphemous to say. Obviously you don't want to lose. Yes, you play sports for a reason. You want to win, obviously. But sometimes you have to break things down in order to build them back up. And at this point, the Broncos just continue to throw Band-Aid and patch fixes at everything. And it, you patch one thing up, but then it leaks in another spot. At some point, you got to just tear everything down and build a good foundation again. And I don't know when they're going to do that. Hopefully they decide to do that this year. I think if you lose today, they really fully embrace that.
Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to say something and it's going to sound kind of crazy, but you know what? I love what John Gruden is doing in Oakland.
He's embracing it.
He's embracing it, and you know what? I was actually watching Fox this morning, and they had Howie Long was talking to him, interviewing him, and John Gruden said that this team has been built on 3 or 4 coaches, 3 or 4 systems. There's so many players for so many different systems that it's just a collective mess. And honestly, when I look at the Broncos, that's what I see. I see so many talented players, but they're not all for the same system. They're not all built for, whether it's Vance Joseph's system or Kubiak's system or whoever. It's a collective amount of players that just don't mesh well. And how do you fix that? You have to blow it up. That's why Gruden is doing what he's doing. He's getting cap space, open up cap space. He's getting a bunch of draft picks. Why? So he can get his guys. So he can get guys that fits his system. That's what he's doing, and it's going to work because Gruden's system works. We've seen it before. It works. He won a Super Bowl off of it. It works, and that's what he's doing. And that's what the Broncos need to do. I hate to say it, but the Raiders are doing it the right way. The Broncos are doing it the wrong way. They're trying to, like you said, patch it up with Band-Aids and duct tape. And honestly, worse than duct tape because it's not holding at all. It's holding for about 2 weeks and then it blows up in their face. And it's happened for the third straight year now. And you would think that they would learn from it, but it's got to be a pride thing. And, it's funny, I'll pull up, the stats on Elway and his career as a GM, and how many GMs would still have a job right now? I'm sorry. It's just, if his name wasn't John Elway, I'm not sure he would be running this team anymore.
Well, and you have to wonder too, and I think about this often now, if John Elway never got Peyton Manning, where would this franchise be right now?
Well, exactly. Why did they get all those players? Why did they get Talib? Why did they get TJ Ward, Stewart, Sanders? Why did they all come to Denver? Because of John Elway? No. Because of one guy, Peyton Manning. John Elway got lucky. He got really lucky being able to sign Peyton, because Denver wasn't Peyton's first choice. It was Houston. And if his brother wasn't in the NFC, he would have gone to Arizona. Denver was not in, maybe third on his list, fourth, but other teams didn't want him. Houston didn't trust him health-wise. He couldn't go to the NFC. So he defaulted to Denver. Luckily, it turned out to be, 2 Super Bowl runs, one Super Bowl win, and there you go. But he's the reason. And if you look at it, John Elway's drafts, that wasn't obviously Peyton Manning, that was Elway. And not a single one of those players have made a Pro Bowl. So you can kind of see why. I mean, that's why they're struggling right now, because his draft picks have been awful, just pathetic.
Except for this past season. I mean, they've been fine. But yes, prior to this,
I think he's gotten a little bit more help this year too.
Yes, prior to this, obviously the draft picks. I mean, with a few guys, maybe 1 or 2 guys sprinkled in each draft class, where you're like, oh, okay, that guy's, he's at least a starter, or so he contributed in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, Peyton Manning single-handedly changed the direction and history of the Broncos franchise, because it could have gone really, really, really bad. Back to your Oakland point, though. I do like that John Gruden is embracing that, hey, you know what? We suck. Let's tank. I like that. I'm not sure I'm on board with trading Khalil Mack. I mean, I get it. You gotta, create cap space. That's a core guy. Okay. Not only a core guy, but that's like a special guy, like Hall of Fame guy. You don't trade those guys too often unless you get something back that's equal. Yes, they got the first round picks. I get it. But we've seen that the draft is essentially a lottery. It's a crapshoot. You don't necessarily know what you're going to get. Yes, you could get the top prospect. You could be the number 1 pick. You could pick the best player on the board, but system has to be right. Coaching has to be right. And hell, what if the guy gets injured and then he's done? It alters his career. There's so much at stake in these types of situations. I don't know about the Khalil Mack thing. Amari Cooper, fine, whatever. I do like that they're embracing that, and I do think that's the right move for them. I'm not personally convinced on John Gruden as a coach. I get it. He won a Super Bowl, but a lot of people say that was on the back of Tony Dungy's players. He didn't really have to do much. He came in with a stacked roster, and voila, he wins. So I'm not convinced that he's going to turn it around. I think what Oakland's doing is the right thing. I'm just not convinced that they'll actually turn it around, but we'll see. And hopefully for all of our sakes, they don't. But
yeah, I mean, it's still the Raiders.
Right, at the end of the day, and you still have to make those picks. And, he's saying a lot of people are dying to come play for the Raiders. I don't think a lot of people are dying to play for the Raiders. I think a lot of people are dying from watching how bad the Raiders are. So I'm just saying, I don't know if they're doing the right thing. But back to Denver, I do think at some point you have to not only embrace rebuilding this thing, really rebuilding it, not restructuring or whatever creative word John wants to use, retooling. No, at some point you got to start from the bottom, build it up. Luckily, they had a great draft where practically every player that they drafted has some way, shape, or form besides David Williams, who I think they took in the 7th round. And, Deshaun Hamilton really hasn't done much. He's hurt now. But you're getting major you're getting major play out of Josie Jewell. Your 2 studs are on offense, Phillip Lindsay, Cortland Sutton, and then Bradley Chubb. I mean, say what you want, but he's been a formidable force on the opposite side of Von Miller. This is a great start. You just need the quarterback, and you need a better offensive line too. Left tackle, Garrett Holds, as we like to call him here, you need to find a different left tackle because he's just not getting it done. But at some point, you got to embrace the rebuild. You have to stop trying to patch this up with glue and staples. You just got to tear it down, man.
Yeah, but at this point, my concern is I think they've missed their chance because you could have torn it. They tore it half down, in the offseason, pretty
Yeah.
much. You trade Talib. TJ Ward is no longer here. So you tore half the defense down, and you were just hoping to rebuild the offense in a quick, easy way through free agency, which obviously hasn't worked. I'm just worried that we've said it before in this, in the past, 5-10 minutes that we've been talking about them. They're talented. They're not bad enough. That's my concern. They're not bad enough. And you had a chance in a deep quarterback draft, and you chose not to take Rosen. And sure, you can say what you want about Chubb, but you have Von Miller. I'm sorry, Chubb is not as important as what Rosen would have ended up being, or Sam Darnold would have ended up being. So as well as Chubb has played, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because you don't have the most important position on the team. And I know, and I see this on Twitter, like, you see, Rosen isn't playing well, especially when the Broncos played at Arizona and they lit Rosen up. And you have all these people saying, see, he's not that good. See, they made the right decision. Go look at Goff's rookie year. Go look at Wentz's rookie year. Go look at all these guys' rookie year. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
The rookies are going to make mistakes. So I feel like you miss your chance because now, say you lose to Houston, but you know what? The Broncos are talented enough to win.
Unfortunately, yes.
So what if you win? You're 4-5.
You're in purgatory.
You still have your issue at quarterback. You're not going to be able to draft a quarterback because they're going to be gone already because you're not bad enough. So now next year you come in. Do you still have Case Keenum?
Unfortunately.
So next year's going to be the same thing because you're going to have a relatively high draft pick to go and get, a talented player, probably someone, maybe a corner, maybe a safety, maybe a linebacker, whatever. You're probably going to go defensively because offensively, or I guess an offensive lineman, you can go left tackle, guard, whatever. So that fixes some holes, but the one hole that you need to fix is still going to be the same crap that they've had for the last 3 years. And they're going to be in the same situation. They are literally, we talked about this with the Nuggets, back with George Karl and whatever. They're stuck in the middle. And the only way to get out of it is you have to blow it up. But if you blow it up, you're not going to be good for another 3-4 years.
And that's what I think they have trouble realizing. I think that's what fans have trouble realizing and coming to terms with because which, is a great thing. As an organization, you have such a standard of success that you don't want to be labeled as a team that's losing or anything otherwise. Mm-hmm. But at some point, yes, you do have to rebuild. And there's no guarantee that the quarterbacks in this draft will even be good this year. They're not high on the quarterbacks this year, at least all those so-called, experts. So you don't even know where you're going to be. And if you do win and you finish, 6-10? Because if you look at their schedule, realistically, okay, they could beat the Raiders again. They should beat the Raiders again. Mm-hmm. They should beat San Francisco. They should beat Cleveland. Okay, so that gives you 3 more wins. They're at 3 now, 3-5. So you finish 6-10 at the very least. That probably nets you a 11 to 15, 16 in the first round. What can you get at that point? That's going to be realistically a great option for you.
You're going to have to trade up. If there's a quarterback you really like, you're going to have to trade up. If not, stay where you're at. Maybe trade down, load up on draft picks, fill the other holes. But again, next year, if you do fill those holes and you actually hit on those draft picks, you're not going to be bad enough again. So then you still don't have a quarterback. You can't. They have to. There's 2 ways they can do this. You have to either blow it up completely and tank, or you have to settle for 8-8, 9-7, and just pray that another Peyton Manning falls from the sky.
Yeah, well, we all know how often that happens.
Right. So. I mean, who knows? Maybe the Raiders will want to trade Derek Carr,
But would they want to trade him in division? Like at that point, with a guy like that, you'd have to hope that he just somehow gets cut, which is possible because the Raiders, the way the contract is structured, they could get out of the deal and he could somehow be cut.
You know what? You pray that Aaron Rodgers is fed up with Green Bay and demands a trade.
God, that would be amazing. But I don't think that would happen. Either.
You need something like that to happen in order to get a quarterback if you don't decide to blow it up. And it's just here's my thing, and here's what I would do. You let the season play out. You play Case Keenum for the rest of the season. Obviously, you're kind of forced at this point. You end up where you end up, probably 6-10, 7-9, whatever. Honestly, I don't fire Vance Joseph. I keep him.
Really?
I keep him because you know what I know about Vance Joseph? He's not a very good coach. So
okay, you're keeping him to suck, not because like you believe in him.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because you're probably not going to be able to get a quarterback this year because you've won too many games already.
Yeah.
There's a chance next year if you keep Vance Joseph, there's a chance you could be even worse. That's the goal.
I don't think that's going to happen.
So you hope that you win 2, 3, 4 games with Vance Joseph because he's not a very good coach. And then you can fire him. Then you have a top 5 pick. Then you can go and get your quarterback. And who knows? You know what? If you keep him, maybe something will click and miraculously they go 11-5 next year. And you're like, okay, well, we'll go this route. But that's what I do. I keep Vance Joseph. I don't want them to fire him because you know what? Who are you going to go get? I mean, you just wait a year. If you know you're going to be bad next year, just wait a year.
I was over here thinking like, oh, wow, Brandon's the only person that believes in Vance Joseph in Broncos country. And you're like, no, keep him because he still sucks. So we'll still suck.
I mean, but it would work.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, possibly. I mean, I think any coach that you have with Case Keenum, you're bound to just suck. No disrespect to Case.
There's things that Vance Joseph does that he loses them games.
It's not as bad as it was last season. Right. I think that people have just their minds so made up on him. And granted, rightfully so. That first season was rough to get through. And there were some decisions made early on in the season where you're like,
but you know what? There's been some improvement.
Yeah, no, and
they're not getting blown out anymore.
Exactly. That's a plus, and they're actually sometimes winning in games, So I like Vance. Do I think he's the right guy for the job? No, I don't. I don't believe that he's, a guy that can turn it around. But at the same time, Bill Belichick didn't look like that when he was coaching in Cleveland. So you never know what these guys can be. Now, would Vance Joseph's, career right now be different if he had, say, a good quarterback, like a Matthew Stafford, a Derek Carr, not even like an elite quarterback. Obviously, if he had an elite quarterback, I hope to God that he'd be great. But if he had just a good quarterback, a tier 2 guy, Kirk Cousins, how would his career look right now? I think we'd have a different tune about Vance Joseph right now if he had a guy like that. And
even if he had a rookie quarterback, because then you're giving him some.
Well, there's hope. There's at least, okay, this guy has growing pains. Let's see what happens with him type of thing. But I think, the narrative would be way different. And, I feel bad for Vance because I think sometimes he just gets an unfair rap. But there's times, too, where he does deserve what he gets because he just makes boneheaded decisions at times. And he always just looks confused. I personally will be sad once Vance Joseph gets fired because I have a ton of Vance Joseph drops on my wall that I love to play during Stokely and Zach, and I don't know if I could play them if he leaves. So I personally want him to stay. That's my decree for John Elway. Please let him stay. We love the drops. Speaking of today's game, they're playing the Houston Texans, who are on a 4 or 5 game win streak, if I have that correct. Yeah, so they're coming in pretty hot. Now, the teams that they've beat, kind of suspect, but a win's a win. You're playing great at this time. Deshaun Watson is starting to look back, to the form that we saw in his rookie season. That defense, albeit they don't have a great secondary. Anytime you have J.J. Watt playing healthy and you have Jadeveon Clowney, helping them out there, I mean, that front is really good for them. What is your thoughts on today's game and how it'll turn out?
Well, my first thought is please Denver lose.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
but I mean that's me every week. I this game is interesting. I feel like I just have a bad feeling that Case Keenum is gonna have his best game of the year. I hate to say that it's a bad feeling, but it is.
It's really weird to say, but yeah.
Just because with the whole O'Brien, that stuff is weird. I read that part. We have the book at over at Altitude, and I read that, and then O'Brien says he never said that, and it's just a weird situation. But I feel like Case Keenum's gonna have his best game of the year.
Ugh.
I honestly think Denver's gonna win. I hate to say that because it's just gonna make me mad.
True fans here. We really want this team to lose, and we're pissed off if they win. Damn it!
Right?
Lose.
It's a weird because Houston is so hot right now. It's just one of those weeks that it feels like a trap week for them.
Yeah.
But you know what? They do have a lot of talent. I could see Deshaun Watson, and we saw how much Denver struggled with Mahomes and getting him down. Well, Watson can do that too. But they have bigger weapons on the outside at their corner situation. You know what? I hope I could see DT going off for 100 yards. I could see, because their secondary is, and with so many guys out, Darian Stewart out, Roby out. Good luck, Chris Harris. It's that defense is kind of a mess right now. They're gonna leave it to their young guys. If Yadam is playing a lot, then Watson could have a field day. I don't know. I don't know what to think about this game. It could be a blowout for Houston. It could be a close Denver win. It could go either way. So that's just one that honestly, I'm just hoping that Denver lays an egg.
I think they do lose today just because I think, secondary wise, I don't know I love Chris Harris, but DeAndre Hopkins, I think he manhandles pretty much any corner that he goes up against, and that guy's a stud. You have Demaryius coming back. Obviously, he's going to be motivated. I don't know how much time he'll get, because obviously he has to learn the playbook and all that. The benefit for him is he's at least knows who he's playing against very well. Mm-hmm. So I think you see Demaryius at least have a decent day, and I hope he does. I hope he sticks it to these fans that have hated on him for all these years. But I do think the Texans come away with a win today, just because Denver's just so confusing to figure out as a team, and I just don't believe in Case Keenum to have any sort of good day. Stokely and Zach talked about it this past week. They were like, could you think of it? What was Case Keenum's best game this season?
The first game, and he threw 3 picks.
None comes to mind. You could, good quarterbacks, you're like, wow, well, this guy, he played really well against this team. Oh, then you forget about this one. That was a great game right there. Granted, he's led, fourth quarter comebacks, and I think in the first 2 or 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's just been really average would be a compliment. That would be at best average. Where it's been is, below average to just straight garbage. And that's not to say that he hasn't played great in stretches, because he has. He's looked good, and you're like, wow, that's the Case Keenum you thought you were going to get. But then he looks bad, and then he turns it over, or he takes a sack, or he obviously doesn't know how to throw the football away, which just blows my mind why he just runs 15 yards to the left like he's on Madden, and instead of throwing it away, he's like, let me just take the sack. Why not? I think they come away with a loss today. I don't see any way in which they can win. I really don't.
I just have that weird gut feeling. I'm with you. Everything tells me that it's a loss because Houston's just flat out better. But for whatever reason, there's just something about this game that it's a weird game. In Denver, Houston's offensive line, I don't know. Can they hold Von Miller and Chubb? And
well, if they need someone to hold somebody, Garrett Bowles can hold anybody. Just let me know. All right, we can just send him over for a series. He'll tackle whoever you need tackled. Goodness.
Right. I mean, you could throw him at defensive tackle.
He's playing the wrong position.
I think he'd do fine.
They're like, every week, Stink does a video in which he just kills Garrett Bowles because instead of technique, Garrett Bowles is like, I'm just going to tackle you. And he does. Every week he tackles somebody. And you can't do that. You just can't. I'm sorry. Makes me angry.
Yeah, this game is going to be a weird one. I have a feeling. I just have a gut feeling Denver wins at the last second.
and then you're at 4-5.
Yeah, and the whole city of Denver is pissed off.
Well, I mean, except for the chunk that want them to win, which is probably the majority, but except for, us millennial progressive analytic thinkers, we're like, lose! That's the only way you get better. Lose. We're thinking long term, everybody else is thinking short term. But when your short term outlook is really gloomy, why not plan for the sunny days instead of the gloomy days that are still hanging over your head? Do you have a score?
A score. In order to win, Denver needs to get 24 at least. I'm gonna say 24. 24-23. I think they win at the last second.
I'm gonna go 20. I think 24 is good, but I think for Houston, I'm gonna say 24 to like that 27 range. Let's go 24-13 Houston. I don't think this Denver offense can move the ball consistently enough, which is weird to say because they're one of the best running football teams. They lead, or at least are top 5 in the league in explosive plays, and somehow are still 3-5. I don't understand that one either. They can move the ball with the best of them, but once we get to that red zone, Case is like, oh boy, all right, where's that safety at so I could throw it to him? Or you got Garrett Bowles licking his chops like, all right, now's my time for that 10-yard holding penalty, baby. Like, I just don't get it. I don't think there's any way they can consistently move the ball. I'm concerned with who's going to block not only J.J. Watt, but Jadeveon Clowney. Like, Garrett Bowles is going to have like 5 tackles today because he's just going to have to just tackle over and over Jadeveon Clowney off that edge and J.J. Watt. I just don't foresee a scenario in which Denver can control this game and win it. But like you said, stranger things have happened. I wouldn't be shocked if they won today because that's just how things go with this team. It's really weird. I hope they lose because I'm looking for the future, but it is what it is.
Yeah, they need to lose, especially to obviously the good teams, but they're going to need to lose to teams like Oakland and Cleveland. And speaking of Cleveland, they're only down by 6 to Kansas City.
Wow.
They need to lose those games. That just makes this game a must lose at this point. Because like you said, we counted 3 pretty much guaranteed wins.
Oh man, I've never heard that. A must lose.
It's a must lose for Denver, or else if they win this game, they're gonna go 7-9 or 8-8. And at that point, draft pick wise, you are screwed.
Yeah, then you're picking in late teens, early 20s.
Right, and at that point,
just trade it at that point.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, and at that point, please keep Vance Joseph and go for another year. I don't know.
Must lose and keep Vance so we can suck again next year.
But you know what? If they do lose, will they trade Vance? I mean,
trade Vance.
Or trade Vance. I wish you could do that. Fire him.
I don't know what kind of uphaul you'd get for Vance. All right, 7th round pick. And your punter for Vance Joseph.
Feel the vending machines in the building for us.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's gonna get on the trade block for Vance Joseph. I don't know. I mean, if you lose, I think if they lose this game, they do fire Vance, and I do think it matters how they lose.
That's so disappointing.
I think it matters how they lose. Because if you lose, if you're up the whole game, and then like a fluky like kick return, and then you miss a field goal or something like that. Like if you lose close and you were in control of the game, I don't think they fire him. But if they go out there and just get straight mollywopped, and Deshaun Watson's throwing for like 400 and 3 touchdowns, and you're getting run all over, and DT has 250 on 14 catches, no drops, and a touchdown, then I think Vance gets fired. So
yeah. What do you expect? Because I know they're having a tribute, and they already have the thank you DT up there.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of cheers you expect?
My mind hopes so, but in my gut, no, I don't think there will be a lot of cheers. I think it'll be a mixed reaction, which is unfortunate because you talk about a guy who obviously is going to be a Ring of Famer. Statistically, he's only second to Rod Smith. I mean, is he the greatest Bronco receiver ever? Talent-wise, I think he's probably the most talented that they've ever had, easily. If Cortland Sutton continues to build his case, then maybe we could be revisiting that conversation, and if he stays a Denver Bronco throughout his career. But I think these fans should be grateful for him. Listen, we all know he had the struggles with the drops over the past 2-3 years. We all know that he wasn't the same guy really after Super Bowl 48. Once he had that whole hip thing start, I mean, he's just never looked like that guy that could take a screen 78 yards and just blow by everybody on the defense. But you talk about a guy who never made noise off the field, for getting in trouble. He did everything for the community, played hurt. You look at his stats, he's played 16 games in like 4 or 5 straight years. I mean, just a guy who grinded it out, never was, besides that first year with Trevor Siemian starting, him and Emmanuel coming out saying we wanted the football more, we need, we want more targets and stuff like that. DT's never been a head case for this team. He's been nothing but great. You don't achieve any of the success you've had without DT. That right. Should be just flat out understood. At his peak, he was a top 5 receiver. So, there should be nothing but great applause and thank yous for him. I'm just worried it won't happen.
Yeah, well, out of all the guys, I think DT has gotten the most hate from Denver fans.
Which is weird. I just don't understand it.
Yeah. Well, and I have family members that every, Thanksgiving or Christmas, they're crapping on DT. And I'm like, What in the world? Aren't you don't you know what he's done? And I get it, the drops, and you can say what you want, but man, I'm concerned that, and I know there's some people that didn't want to tribute for him just because it's it's less than a week later, right. And
it feels weird.
And all
it's
that
a weird situation.
Yeah, it feels weird, but at the same time, he deserves it. And honestly, he deserves, in my opinion, he deserves a standing ovation from the crowd. But I'm just worried that the stupid glove wearing Bronco fans are gonna boo him.
And I think what really clouds this fan base's judgment is just the losses. When you lose and then you compound things with like individual losses, like dropping the football and just, and people kill him for, you don't show emotion. It's funny because like when players show emotion, like Odell throwing his helmet or, punching a net or something like that, fans are like, he's throwing a tantrum. He's whining. He can't do that crap. And then when they don't show emotion, you don't show any emotion. You're not passionate. You're not giving it your all. Listen, this guy's played through hip injuries. He's played through, 16 games the past 4 or 5 years. He's giving everything he has. Okay.
Right.
He's not like, Jimmy Butler saying I'm sitting out because my toe hurts, even though it doesn't hurt. He plays Golden State and he's going to sit out tonight against Portland. Look at that. Yeah. That's a real guy giving it all for your franchise. DT deserves, like you said, a standing ovation. He's done nothing but great things for this community, for this team. It's unfortunate, but I just think it's just because this team has struggled the past few years and because, he's started his decline. I think that really is what caused fans to just get on him. It's the same thing in a degree, not completely, but to how fans treat Von Miller now. You have guys coming out every week. I see it. I do the postgame show. Every week, trade Von Miller. Where's Von Miller? I get it. Yes, he should be out there, and it doesn't help that Khalil Mack seems to be wrecking the game every week he's healthy. But Von's doing, I guarantee you, if you don't have Von Miller, you notice the difference on the field. Von does so many things that we don't see and don't show up in the stat sheet that you have to be grateful for.
Go watch all of Chubb sacks.
Exactly. Well, not only that, but we don't know what he does in the run game and how he affects things there. He's not getting doubled as much as people think he is, or some people want to hope he is. He is getting double teamed, obviously. But there's no doubt that offensive coordinators go into every week saying, 58, we have to know where he is at all times, and we have to stop him. Because if you don't account for him, or you just suck, then you see what Von Miller can do a la Arizona, Seattle, in those games where he tears it up. Super Bowl 50, Cam Newton, all that stuff. We all know what happened. It's just the same thing that we see with Von Miller, people wanting to trade him, getting on Von. But once these guys are gone, you notice the difference. And I think people will notice the difference, too, with DT being gone because he's just a great guy, a great pillar in the community. And, yes, he's not the explosive guy that he once was, but he turned into a really great possession receiver for you.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He was starting to turn into that Larry Fitzgerald type of guy.
And now it's all on Emmanuel, the guy who loves him some Emmanuel. So, I mean, that's what you have now. That's your number one guy. And if he starts speaking out, then what? Then you're going to miss DT. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully they give him a great applause. I don't know if they will. We'll see how it goes. That game goes down at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The Browns really hanging in tough with the Chiefs. It's weird. Hopefully they can get a win. Anytime the Chiefs lose, I'm a happy man.
And speaking of bad quarterbacks, Nathan Peterman.
Oh, man, what's Nate Dogg done today?
He's thrown his 3rd pick 6 of his career.
Oh, hell yeah.
He has 3 career passing touchdowns.
Nice. And 17 picks.
Yeah.
God.
So technically he has 6 career touchdowns.
Man, Nathan Listen.
I wish we had him.
I wish I was him. Could you imagine getting paid millions of dollars to be really bad at your job? Like, that is the American dream, people. Okay, don't be great. Be bad and get paid millions, and somehow you're kept around.
Yep. Backup quarterback is the best job in America.
Oh, man. If that was New England, he would have been cut after that first, 5-pick game. But he's somehow sticking around because Buffalo's like, we need you. I don't understand that, but,
we need a top pick.
Yeah. I mean,
that's why Denver's going to keep Vance Joseph. We need you for next year.
Oh, man. Nathan Peterman. What a guy. All right. You got anything else you want to hit on, or is that what we're going to...
No, I'm just hope for another Broncos loss, and hopefully the Nuggets stay with 1 loss by next week.
Hopefully 1 loss. Looking at, let's see, what's their upcoming schedule before we...
They have Boston on Monday.
And then I
they're
think it's
Memphis
right?
on Wednesday.
And then Brooklyn's here.
On Friday.
Yeah.
And then they got the Bucks Sunday night.
All right, so a decent
It's a
stretch.
winnable schedule.
Yeah.
At home against the Celtics, it's winnable. It's a tough one, obviously.
That's going to be really tough.
But say you win that one, you beat Memphis how you're supposed to beat Memphis. You beat the Nets because you're supposed to beat the Nets. Then you could see them 11-1 by next Sunday.
Wow, it's amazing. It's funny how the tables have turned. You got the Nuggets. The Avs are starting to kind of come back to the pack a little bit recently with some of these losses and giving up so many goals late in periods that they've been doing. But you have the Nuggets, the Avs, and the Rockies all vying or at least making playoffs. And then you got the Broncos that are like, we need to lose, but they don't lose. And then you're like, oh, all right.
But you know what? Look at those, at least for the Avs and Nuggets, losing worked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it helped
worked.
that, well, I mean, I guess in the Nuggets case, I don't know how this really pans out in the, NHL wise. I don't know where Denver's like, I'm guessing it's a mid-sized market, but I don't know if NHL free agents are like, yeah, Denver's a destination. I don't know what the feel is with that in the NHL and in the Colorado Avalanche, but obviously with the Nuggets, it's a mid to small market team. Mm-hmm. This is how you have to get good. You have to go the Oklahoma City route and draft well and just suck and hope you get lucky. Yeah. So, I mean, and then with the Broncos, I mean, it's a destination team to an extent, but at the same time, you have to rebuild at some point. You have to acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. King James and the Lakers, real quick. How do you feel about that so far? They get a win last night, so they're starting to kind of shape things into a competitive situation. Obviously, the only team to give the Nuggets a loss, which is still frustrating to me because they should have won that game, but whatever. That's the only time I was really angry.
See, and I thought going into that game, the Nuggets would lose. That was a weird one because the Lakers still hadn't won at home, I believe.
Well, that's great.
They had gotten their first win the night before, so I think it was just the momentum for the Lakers. Being at home and needing their first home win. I think that was just a weird situation for the Nuggets. But yeah, I mean, for the Lakers, look, for LeBron, watching LeBron, I can tell for the first time I've seen LeBron lose a step. Now defensively, we've kind of known that the past couple of years.
Yeah.
But for the first time just watching him, I just felt like, man, LeBron looks older. He just, I don't know what happened because he didn't look like that in the finals to me. Yeah. Maybe it's taking time. I don't know what it is, but for the first time that I watched him, I thought, man, LeBron looks old.
Right.
But you know what? He's still great. He's still playing great. Look for the Lakers, and we've seen it with all of LeBron's new teams. They're going to start slow. I believe that Miami team for the first 2 months, they were 17-20. or something like that. I mean, they had a losing record for a while.
Well, it just seems like it's a thing with his teams every year that they just start slow. And
then, especially when it's a new team. Yeah. So I didn't expect, I expected them to have a losing record until probably December. So, hey, but you know what? They're going to get hot. I like Brandon Ingram over there. I like Josh Hart. Rondo needs to start and needs to play more minutes. Lonzo just that hasn't really gotten it yet. I think it's just going to take a little bit more time. Kuzma, I like Kuzma. Like, they have good young pieces. Josh Hart can shoot. Brandon Ingram can shoot. You have your guys that can shoot. So they're going to be, let's just say this, for the Nuggets in the playoffs, I pray that they don't play the Lakers.
Yeah, that would be a weird matchup. I think they would win, but for some reason,
I don't think so.
That would I think they would. I think talent would eventually prevail. I don't think Lance Stevenson's going to go on an 8-0 run every game.
My concern is LeBron.
Well, yes.
Playoff LeBron is different.
You don't want to play LeBron James in the playoffs at any time.
Right.
And
he's never lost in the first round. So that's why I'm saying whoever has to play the Lakers in the first round, because they will make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Unless it's Golden State, they have a good chance of winning.
How Nuggets would that be? Like, that would be so Nuggets.
Can you imagine the Nuggets getting a second seed and losing to the Lakers in the first round?
A 3 seed, and your first round opponent is LeBron James and the Lakers, and you lose in like 6 or 5, and you're like, really? Like, we made the playoffs, but like, really? Of course, we got Golden State as they turned into Golden State. You had to deal with Lakers all those years, and Kobe and Bynum and Gasol and all those guys, and then of course San Antonio. Like, that would be so Nuggets right there. That would be just depressing, honestly.
Yeah. But you know what? The goal for the Nuggets is to make the playoffs.
Yes.
If they don't get past the first round, I don't think it's something where you're like go all up in arms like,
it would
fire
be disappointing depending on the matchup.
Right.
I think this team is more than capable of winning a first round matchup. Once you get to like the second round,
they can beat Portland, they can beat Utah, they can beat San Antonio. Like, in a 7-game series, they can beat those guys. I'm just saying LeBron is scary. Playoff LeBron, you might as well be playing a top 2 seed.
I pray that we're not his first victim. That's just all I hope. Please, LeBron, I've loved you forever. Don't do this to me, because I might have to go back to hating you. I don't want to do that. All right, that'll do it for today's installment of Behind the Glass. It's been a while, but I felt good to knock off the rust. I'm not going to put a date on when the next one's going to happen, because we're too inconsistent for that.
Right. Hopefully every Sunday. At least I would like to. But.
So we'll see how it goes, but stay tuned. We'll try and get this out to you. And thanks for listening, all 6 of you. If you accidentally click, maybe you should stay next time. Who knows what'll happen?
Right.
We appreciate you listening. For Brandon Stowell, I'm Stephen Priest. We'll catch you. Yeah, the S. Goodness. We'll catch you next time.